Today's episode of the Alamo City Innovators Podcast is sponsored by Air Integrity Comfort Solutions for all your commercial cooling and heating needs. Welcome to the Alamo City Innovators Podcast, where we shine a spotlight on the movers and shakers of San Antonio's vibrant community. Join us as we explore the stories behind the success of business professionals, nonprofit champions, influential political figures, and media personalities who are making a difference in and around the Alamo City. And now your hosts, Marco Salinas and Francisco Bermudez Jr.
And welcome to the inaugural episode of the Alamo City Innovators Podcast. Joining us today on our kickoff episode is none other than Mr. Bill Dante. Bill Dante, the meteorologist on Channel 4 here in San Antonio. How many years did you do that?
I did 25 years on between Channel 12 for 2 years, and then wound up in Dallas for a year, but then back to Channel 4 because I really like San Antonio. And it was a great opportunity in Dallas because it's the 8th market in media.
Wow.
This is the 30th. So
Wow.
Once you go to an 8th, you can work number 9. But I came back to San Antonio and been here
Wow.
ever since.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And by the way, let me officially say, Bill, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for
Thanks.
being here today,
It's
my
good to
friend.
be here.
Yeah, this is cool. This is exciting. Before we pressed record, we were having some great conversations. You're involved in quite a few different things. You've got. Can you give us a short list of your most notable things that you've been doing for the last, let's say
100
maybe
years?
10, maybe let's say the last decade or so.
Yeah, at least, yeah.
This is your post meteorologist career, right? Basically,
It is. Well, people always say, you used to be a meteorologist," and I said, "Well, that's like being a dentist. Once you're a dentist, you're just not pulling teeth anymore." So I'm not. I do weather. Sometimes the city will call me if they want to know what's going on. As far as like last year, the 110 degrees we had, which
Yeah.
is unheard of. The year before, where we had 100,
Yeah.
which was unbelievable for
We enjoyed
6 months. Okay.
the AC guy enjoyed
that's
it.
good.
Yeah,
Of course, I was going to say, well, AC
for
guys,
different reasons.
they
Yeah,
made lots of money.
that's right. That's right.
So, and the thing with the weather like that, because there was a time when if we hit 100 degrees in August for 2 days, if it was 102 or 103, it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
But to hit 100 from May all the way through, and then I had talked to the city, and I said, our weather is changing, and where we've had ice storms and snowstorms. And the other day, when we were, what was it, 75, it was snowing in the Panhandle.
yeah.
So things have changed, and it's reality. And this year, we're going to be going over 100. I hate to say that again.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be 110. That was just unbelievable last year.
So
But again,
brutal.
air conditioning guys, they love this, So
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
this here. Yeah,
We
yeah.
liked it the first week, and after a while, it's missable.
yeah. After a while, it's no fun anymore.
Well,
Especially
his team has to be up in the attic. You know what I mean?
I know. And
so
there's
that's
130 and 140.
Right, right.
But to go back to your question, so when I came to San Antonio right out of the Air Force, I was in the Air Force about 3.5 years and got into radio and television in the Air Force, became a meteorologist. But I actually came to San Antonio to start KTFM.
Did you really?
I was in Austin, which was one of my first jobs, and went to work at a radio station that was the first FM rocker, if you can imagine, in Austin.
Yeah.
So I was hired as an announcer before they signed on the air, and the station actually became number one, of course, in a year. And then 2 years later, I had a call from the owner of KTSA saying, because I was in charge of the announcers
Yeah.
and the music, and it was a station, KRMH, we called it Karma.
Oh,
Matter of
nice.
fact, somebody recently in Bandera, of all places, said, "You're not Bill Dante from Karma."
Oh,
And I
no
said,
kidding.
Yeah, I am. I came here, brought some of those announcers with me, and we started KTFM when it was an album
Wow.
rock thing. And then I went to Kono and switch Konos over to oldies, explaining to the owner, FM's going to be eating your lunch. You need to take Kono and move it to old. And it's number one now in the market.
Yeah.
And so how that all came about real quickly was Channel 12 called me and said, are you a meteorologist? And I said, yeah. They said, would you like to try for the weekends? And so I auditioned, but they said, well, the only bad news is that you can't be on radio. We can't have our meteorologist being a DJ, but I did become a member of the, or was inducted into the San Antonio, Texas Radio Hall of Fame. A lot of my good friends, Rudy Rocha and all these guys that worked with me, and they're all in there. You don't know that when you're doing that radio back then, that we knew we were good, but not good enough where everybody's going to be in the Radio Hall of Fame. You know?
No kidding, yeah.
So I wound up doing the weather, but what I did is I was only doing it on the weekends.
Okay.
So then KISS Radio said, what do you do during the week? I said, right now, nothing. They said, how would you like to be in sales? So to make a long story short, I went from KISS to 96 Rock, sales manager, but always doing the weather.
Okay.
And back to KTSA and KTFM as their national sales manager. And then finally with Channel 4, became their sales manager and national, but still was doing the weather, very involved since 1980 with Ray Feo, raising money. I think it's really important to give back, especially if you're a personality in the market where you can really influence and help. Not only, it's all about the kids is something that I use as a slogan, everything. It's about the kids, the scholarships. And, I won't go into my background, but I was raised in a pretty rough neighborhood. Up until the day I turned 18. I was told to go, I needed to join the service and get out of that neighborhood. Otherwise, it was not going to be good.
Sure.
And so I can relate to San Antonio as far as helping the kids. And it's been really rewarding. Did the Children's Miracle Network for like 12 years, did a lot of the telethons.
Yeah, I think I remember
so
that, yeah.
With Ray Feo, and helping there, and been prime minister numerous times. And then I had a phone call from a woman, Lee Spencer White. She is the president of the direct descendants of the defenders of the Alamo.
Oh, wow.
And she said the Texas Rangers wanted to talk to you. Well, I knew I didn't have any outstanding tickets. I knew it wasn't a warrant.
Right, quick warrant look up here. Let's see, yeah.
Yeah, so
it had to be good news.
They wanted me to MC their gala, which they were having at the Hyatt. So I said, sure. Although I did say that a lot of the galas that we would do with Ray Feo would not be, they would be more not the hotel things, because hotels are in business to make money, not to work with nonprofit organizations.
Sure.
So I emceed that and wound up becoming co-chair of that particular board. It was good, and then they've had every year since, which has been 7 years, helping with and work. Before you know it, I was on the board, and then 3 years ago was become chairman of the board. So, and then just reelected last month. I'm chairman of the board of the Texas Rangers, which is coming a long way from the streets of the East Coast.
Not too shabby.
But again, it's about giving back. In Fredericksburg, the Texas Rangers have a heritage center. And these are really not former, they're retired, but a lot of names that you know who are very, very well-known, famous legends.
Sure.
And so they have 12 acres in Fredericksburg next to Fort Martin Scott, which was one of the first forts back in the 1840s.
Okay.
So they were building phase one is done.
Yeah.
We just had a Celebrate Texas where they actually brought in Comanches from Oklahoma, open to the public for free, and Walmart and Lowe's, we get them involved.
Yeah,
because I came from the sales side, so I know how to get them involved.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Great skill
and
to
so
have.
they're looking at doing a phase two, but COVID hit.
Yeah.
And when COVID hit, that put the brakes on for a lot of people and a lot of businesses. Matter of fact, we had a business, had a magazine. I had a business, Dante Clark Media, and we had a magazine called Destination San Antonio. And that was in every hotel room and exclusive to the Alamo. And who would have thought?
Yeah.
that you were going to go out of business because all the hotels shut down.
Correct. Yeah.
So we started another magazine called Texan
Okay.
magazine, and we started with the app and went backwards, an app to the website. Usually you start with the print, work your way.
Right. Yeah.
So we went backwards because hotels even today won't allow any paper in their rooms for the most part because
Really?
everybody's still paranoid about the COVID thing.
Oh man.
You know, I know. So but that magazine, Texan, if you go to texanmag.com,
Okay.
takes you to the website and then takes you to the free app or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're doing good. Have about 50,000 readers between primarily San Antonio Hill Country, but now Austin, Houston, because you can go to the app, and it's very lifestyle. My wife Lisa is the editor,
Very cool.
and I write some articles, and Albert Flores has written some articles, and we've all
Another familiar
but,
name.
But then she says, your articles are great, but your grammar
Could
is not good. That's not the word she used.
use a little AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But coming from radio and television, I wouldn't expect my grammar to be, same thing with Albert. She said he writes great articles, but his grammar, because in other words, she has to rewrite.
Yeah.
You can't put that in print the
Sure.
way we're talking. and
Absolutely.
everything like that.
So, are there any? Do you do any history stuff in that at all? In your magazine, you cover any?
We
Or
do.
is it just pure lifestyle?
No, we do articles. We've done, obviously, Texas Rangers articles.
Yeah.
We've done
Such a rich history here in this state.
A lot,
You know?
a
So,
lot.
A lot to cover.
a lot to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, tremendous amount. Matter of fact, we're currently working with the state where they have different little trips that you can go on. So you can drive out yourself, but they title them. It could be historical.
Yeah.
It could be hypothetically Texas Rangers, or it could be food.
Yeah.
In other words, they have options for you that the state has. There's so much to do and see just in Texas.
Sure.
I mean, if you go from Amarillo to the valley, I mean, hypothetically,
Right.
But if you
That's right.
picked a specific, like bluebonnets, if you
Yeah.
just want to go see wildflowers right now,
Yep.
there's a trail that you can go, or the history trail, or some of the wagon trains, and all like with the Rangers, there's the forts, and there's so much history
Yeah.
there, and it's more than just because the Texas Rangers just celebrated. I learned a lot. Celebrated their 200th anniversary, so it's
Wow.
1823 to last year,
Yep.
and how they came about was Austin, the real Austin, needed some kind of a security.
Yeah.
So at the first there were 10 Rangers, but they were named Rangers because it'd be like, you're going to go to the North Range and you're for 1 week, and people would volunteer, and
Wow.
so you became a Ranger.
Sure.
And
Wow.
that's how that, then it developed where they actually started hiring people. But the primary problem back then was because it was Tejas.
Yeah.
And Tejas was part of Mexico.
Yeah.
And the people living here, whether you were Anglo or whether you had to swear allegiance, so
Yeah.
you became also a Tejas, a
Yeah.
Tejano.
Right.
And that's, I won't go through that whole thing.
Sure.
But
You reminded me of my elementary school field trips when I hear some of that terminology. You know, we'd go do the Alamo tour and the Institute of Texan Cultures, and
Right.
I didn't appreciate it then. As an adult, I'm obsessed with that stuff.
well,
So interesting.
and just like the Rangers or the Alamo history, but the Rangers, some of the first Rangers, half of them were Tejano. I mean,
Sure.
of course they were, know.
Right.
And the biggest problem was the Comanches.
Right.
And they were from up north, and they would come down, and all they did was basically steal, rob. They weren't farmers.
Right.
And that's what they did, even from the other tribes, Apaches and all. Nobody liked
Yeah.
prefer the Comanches because that's what they did.
That's very true.
And so they needed some sort of, when you're sitting out there on a farm with you, your wife, and the kids, and you open your door and you're looking,
Yeah.
oops, there is no telephones there.
Right. Right.
You're in it. But anyway, the history is great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm a big history buff, so I can relate.
Likewise. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. So now they're like you're trying to keep the story alive, right? Like that way people won't forget about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's important. It's the history.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
I happen to be a big fan of the Pacific War Museum there in
Right. Yeah, the
Fredericksburg.
Nimitz, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I try to go take my kids there and introduce them to all those things. A picture of us standing next to the big bomb there, you know, and but you know, there's so much rich history there. You were mentioning that you
We're
guys
right
are
down the
working on
street.
something with a museum for the Texas Rangers there and
Yeah.
a potential conference
We're-
center,
we're-
right? Is
we're-
what you
they're
guys are
looking
working
at
on?
it. They're what happened is they were going to put in a 30,000 square foot children's museum. Well, COVID hit, so after COVID, the interest rates went up. So even though you could have this much money ready to go, they were getting ready.
It changed. Yeah.
It changed. Now
Yeah.
they have a phase one. You can bring the kids by. There's a lot to walk around and see, and history, and some great bronze statues, and just a lot of things. But the what they'd like to do, if possible, would be great, is to have. There is no conference center per se in Fredericksburg with all the tourism.
Yeah.
And Fredericksburg's not that far. That's
right.
Downtown, it's an hour, but it depends where you live. It's basically a 45-minute drive.
That's right.
And then Kerrville's another. But the hill country in San Antonio, I mean, in Texas, is the hill country. I mean, it's so
Right.
fabulous. And
That's right.
even the north side of San Antonio, and of course, you have the eclipse
Yes.
coming up.
Yeah. What are your plans for that?
Not to leave the house.
You're staying home,
We live
but
out.
you're direct. You're in the direct path.
Well, not that. Well, actually, the direct path is in the current magazine of Texan. I wrote an article of
Oh, nice.
why is this so special?
Yeah.
Was the title,
Yeah,
and we had a partial in October.
that's right.
Okay,
Yep.
so this is a
I had my
full.
glasses. I
You need your
watched it.
glasses today. This is
Yeah.
a full solar eclipse. Now, a full solar eclipse happens every 18 months somewhere in the world.
Really?
But the next one's going to be in Australia, or the last one was in Africa. So, but the next one in Texas will be in 44. But the last time it was this path, which is coming off the Pacific, if you can picture, Mazatlan,
Yep.
Del Rio, Uvalde, and then it moves up for the total eclipse, which is about 4.5 minutes, the total blacking.
Yeah.
That's going to go over Kerrville, where they're expecting 500,000 people.
Yeah.
It's going to be a nightmare. Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going up and actually then goes up into Canada. The thing with it is that that particular path, the last time it went like that was in 1397,
Wow.
100 years before Columbus
Jeez.
hit the beaches of
That's right.
of the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so I give you an idea how long ago and why is this so important. I know that the Rangers, for example, have on their Heritage Center 200 parking spaces, for example. So they're charging like $100 for the day,
Yep.
which is cheap compared to what we're hearing.
Yeah, right.
All the hotel rooms are booked everywhere, but I even heard that they're going to be closing one lane of 10 and one lane of 281 because of emergency vehicles. They've got to. I mean, it's going to be with that many people. And they're also saying that if you're living on northwest San Antonio, then all the way out, that to go shopping next week
Yeah.
and buy enough water, this, that, toilet paper, the same thing you would if it was going to be, you know, a freeze.
Sure.
Because of all the people coming to the area with an RVs. So the Rangers, for example, we have 30 cars that are coming from California, and these are people that are really into it. So but if you pictured just Houston, Galveston, and all these towns that aren't going to see it, that are going to come up from northern. What this thing does, it's where it goes over the totality over Kerrville.
Yep.
Picture 60 miles on either side.
Yeah.
So, like, if you go to out I-10 to Leon Springs, you probably could watch it for 2.5 minutes of the total.
Right.
But you still have an hour before and an hour after. And one of the things I brought up the other day was a lot of these people are coming from Boston and all these different places, and they're going to want to watch this for 2 hours. Midday, San Antonio, 2 hours outside in the sun.
Yeah.
And they're not from here.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it, and I mentioned it to Texas Ranger Davis, who's the president of the Heritage Center, and I said, you know, you might want to get some with all these people. May want to have some suntan lotion,
Yeah.
or block, or
Yeah.
because it's going to be. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
a simple thing like that.
Right.
After I couldn't be outside for 2 hours
Sure.
like that.
Sure. Yeah.
know, so-
100%.
But
So-
that's what's going on with that.
Yeah, so it sounds like once a meteorologist, always a meteorologist, right? You always
Right,
kind of have your
right.
your eye
Well,
and your ears to
especially
that.
if you're recognized and your percentage was high of being right versus being wrong,
There you go. Yeah, yeah,
so that when the city calls you and says, "Okay, tell us what's going on," like in our magazine Texan in December, I said we talked about the cover for January, February. I had a cowboy on a horse in snow, and they're going, "But you got to," I said, "because we're going to have some snow in
Yeah.
January," and we did.
Yeah.
And the freeze that hit.
Right.
But knowing what's happening with the weather or having your finger on it, because it affects us so much.
Yeah,
Especially with not so much the COVID thing, but there was just before COVID, to give you a feel, San Antonio received 32 million visitors a year. Now, some were tourists, business, stuff
Yeah.
like that, but that's a lot of people
Yeah.
in the area, and 80% of that 32 million were from Texas. How
I
about
see.
that?
Wow,
Those are facts from the Convention of Visitors Bureau.
interesting. Yeah, sort of a version of a staycation in a sense, right? At least within the state.
No, within the state. Like
Yeah.
we of course San Antonio, we like the area, but if we're going to go to the coast, we like Galveston.
Yeah, yeah.
And we
absolutely.
actually did an article on Galveston in the magazine, The History of,
Yeah.
and other places also. But
Right.
but for the drive, and it's really it's very clean. It's very nice.
Yeah.
There was a time when it wasn't. Matter of fact, I even said that in the article. Never went there, never wanted to, heard the water was dirty. I actually said that in the article. I said, so we went and we were stunned on how pristine.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, we sent pictures on Facebook and people were, where are you guys? In the Bahamas? Where are you?
Yeah.
We're in Galveston. They're going,
Wow,
anyway.
that's interesting. That is very interesting.
I mean, I have a question. I mean, you've done a lot in your career. What does it take to be successful, or were you always this successful? What are some of the things that you felt that prepared you for?
Success tips.
Success,
you're
yeah.
looking for. Okay.
I just think that, live your dream, do it. And don't think that you can't do it, because you can do it. You just need to do it. The other thing is that, the nice thing is that there's always people that will, if they see that you have that drive and you want to, no matter what you want to do, I don't care. My dad was an electrician. I don't care if you want to be an electrician or whatever.
Yeah.
Be the best you can.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
people will help you. People will open doors. And I used to always say, when somebody would ask me for something or to help being in radio or this or that or advice, I say, if I could, I say, I can open the door. I can get your foot in the door, but you got to get the rest of the body in, and then it's up to you to stay there. So if somebody opens the door, don't forget them. But then as you go along, then you do the same. You open the door
Yeah.
and help other people. And that goes back to just helping, being involved in the community, giving back, no matter how. To give back is very rewarding, no matter what. Like we were talking about downtown. We went to the spaghetti dinner not that long ago over at
You talking about the church-related one? Yeah, the Christopher Columbus.
yeah, and that was fun. And,
yeah.
and it was a matter of, it was a Sunday, and we said, well, let's go do that. And it was like 15. But the fact that you were still giving back.
Yeah, that's right.
Matter of fact, we got married in that particular church.
Oh, is that the one?
With
Oh, very cool.
Archbishop- Well, Archbishop Flores, and he said, "You sure you don't want to do San Fernando?" Of course, I was doing the weather at the time.
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I really like that church." And
Yeah.
so we got married there, right?
Yeah.
Which was fun. And
Yeah,
he was
absolutely.
great. I mean, he was one of my favorite people.
Priceless memories, right?
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, going back to your point about his question and what your dad did, right? So it was your dad's a tradesman,
Right.
an electrician.
His dad was an electrician.
And then that era, though, they were like, son, go to college, get your education. now we're seeing a resurgence of the trades again. That's the interesting
It is.
thing.
Well, with me, it was out of high school, and it sounds like, and the words I got were, okay, join a job or join the service, because we didn't have the money to go for me to go to college.
Sure.
So I joined, like literally the day I turned 18, I joined the Air Force. Somebody said, "Why Air Force?" I said, "Blue was my favorite color."
There you go. It's nicer than green, that's for
green,
sure.
Yeah. But the thing is but in the service, which is an opportunity, that it's a door, and that turned into one thing where it's. I got sent to San Antonio, went through Lackland, got put into the Air Police of all things, but. And which was fine, because when I was younger, somebody said, "What do you want to be?" And I thought, well, I'd like to be a police officer. I'd like to be a state police, or I'd like the DPS. And
Yeah, there you go.
and when you're a kid, that's your hero
Of course.
in the neighborhood. So
And now you're full
wind up
circle.
getting in the radio and television in Germany with Armed Forces Radio and Television, and it was one of those doors.
Yeah.
And I even worked at the Canadian Air Force Base over there, had my own show, but I was 19. And then it was a choice, a crossroads. Do you stay in the service, or do you want to get out? And so I made that choice and got out and got in the radio, on the radio side. Came back to San Antonio because I really liked it here.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I am.
It just kept snowballing. Yeah,
It
just kept
does,
on.
met Lisa, my wife here. We have our son, who's actually, won't go into that, but he majored in animation and wound up going to UIW in animation. He took some Japanese there because he was always into this Japanese, the anime
Sure.
and all that. And presently, the last 2 years, he's doing animation. He's in Tokyo.
Wow.
Working for one of the largest companies, working on
Straight to
Lord
the source.
of the Rings.
Huh? Yeah.
I mean, who would have known? I mean,
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. Bill Dante, really interesting story. Real honor to have you here visiting with us
it's
today.
good to be
Grew up
here.
watching you.
I grew up watching you. I was going to say no. I was kidding.
And myself, I hope to go visit your Texas Ranger efforts and
should.
things that you're doing, because
You
I love
should.
Fredericksburg, first of
Yeah.
all. And but it sounds like you're doing some really
It's
cool
right
stuff.
on
with
the
that.
east side of town, 290. But like if you're going to Luckenbach or
Right,
Johnson City,
Johnson City, yeah.
So it's right across from the Walmart. I mean,
Okay.
you can't miss it. So-
Gotcha.
but if you go to the Nimitz and you make a right,
Yeah.
But it's people are so great, and the Rangers are the Rangers. They're very humble, but at the same time, I wouldn't want one on my heels.
Sure, that's right.
looking
Absolutely.
for me. No,
That's
no,
exactly
no.
right. Yeah. Well, we will make sure that we put a link to your news, your magazine,
Texan Mag.
Texan Mag. We'll put a link to the Texas Ranger. I guess is that a nonprofit version of that, or what's the website for the? Texas
They have
Ranger?
the former Texas Ranger Heritage Center. You can
Okay,
look in
that's what I was looking
Fredericksburg. They have a great website.
Okay.
So,
We'll make
but
sure
the
we got
nice
that.
thing is that they always have events going on for the public, and they're primarily free.
Can't beat it.
Can't
Can't beat it, especially
They
in this
cost you for a
economy.
hot dog, but even then, we had HEB, the event we did at Christmas. When we first got involved, there was like 50 kids and one little tree. We actually went to Lowe's and went to Walmart, because coming from the the sales side, and talked them out of 12-foot trees. We have now 12-foot trees, and now 500 kids.
Wow.
And we got all the hot dogs and buns donated and at Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the kids again.
Right.
It all goes back to the next generation and the next generation. What can you do today
That's right.
for the next generation?
That's right. Did you have anything you want to leave off with?
No.
Would you like a free weather forecast or anything?
Yeah. What's the weather forecast
Yeah,
going to be?
Actually, here it is, a crazy weather. I mean, it was 42 this morning.
Yeah.
And we can talk all day. The Air Force thing. You picture when you join the Air Force, you're a peon. I mean, the lowest thing in the earth.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's how it works.
I had the privilege of 3 years ago being the honorary commander of Lackland Air Force Base, which is pretty
Wow.
funny.
Gosh.
When you're standing looking in the mirror, you go, okay, I was on the peon.
That's right.
Now I'm
That's
the
right.
honorary. We got to fly with
kidding.
the C-5 and
Oh,
and
man.
things like that. But just 6 months ago, we've always had Rottweilers, and the last one that we had got the dysplasia. So I always try to. So I went online and I said, "What's one of the most intelligent dogs?" And we love Rottweilers; they're really family. And it said the Belgian Malinois,
Mm.
and I didn't even know what that was. So I looked it up, and it says there's no off button, and Navy SEALs are the ones you just see strapped to them when they're jumping out of the planes, and all this stuff. So I looked it up and said, how much are those? And I went, whoa. And then they said, well, a lot of people get them and can't handle them because they're so high energy.
Yeah.
They're only 80, like 70 pounds, but they look like a small German Shepherd, but they're actually part wolf
Wow.
from Belgium.
Wow.
Make a long story short, I went and looked. They said, well, if you qualify, you can adopt one from Lackland. Did not know that Lackland trains all the dogs that go to every Marine, Air Force, Navy, everything. They're come out of Lackland. I didn't know
Incredible.
that. And you can adopt if you qualify.
Yeah.
So I filled out all the paperwork. They called me the next day and said, Mr. Dante, when you want to come over and look at some dogs, of course, it surprised my wife when I said, we're going over to Lackland. So we did. We've had him. We did pick one.
Yeah.
He was 3 years old. It was 2.5. He was Navy SEALs.
Wow.
But at that point, they get the PTSD because he was special school for mines,
Sure.
munitions, and his name's Creed. So we adopted him, and that's been an experience because he was never in a home or really had that type of atmosphere. It was
To relax, right?
Yeah.
yeah. So, but what I'm saying is that to me, that's another way of giving back. We
Absolutely.
were able to adopt him, and
Absolutely.
really, and it's been an interesting 7 months. But the next, and he's really come a long way. So I just wanted to bring that up in case someone was thinking
Absolutely.
about
Yeah.
adopting.
Yeah. No,
I'll
that's
definitely
great.
look into that.
Yeah. No, that's great.
And I was gonna ask you, Mr. Andrew Limon told me to question you online. How was your experience with Andy and with Beto? When
Oh
they
no,
went
it
to
was
service
great.
here?
Being a weather person, what happened was our heat went out in December, maybe January, but the emergency, I forget what that's called.
What is that?
The hit strip.
No,
Yeah,
what is that emergency setting though? That
It's the
that
electrical
kicks on?
heaters.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but ours was a thermostat that was in the hallway and didn't have one that alerted you. Maybe if you don't, get one that will do your Wi-Fi or something, not because we didn't. And so therefore, I noticed it was a little chillier, but we always keep our winter temperatures about 64. You know, the house is insulated. And in the summer, we have it up about 76, 77. But we knew something was wrong. And then by the time we realized it, they come out and said, you've been running on your emergency heat pump. Let me tell you the difference between a $200 electric bill and a $500 electric bill.
You feel it.
For the same, you feel it. And
Yeah.
we were shocked. But they came out, and in one day, I didn't know this, and we were talking earlier, they said you don't have any Freon. I said, well, in other words, there was a leak in the unit outside. I said, well, what's it got to do with the heat? That's cold. They said, no, and I didn't know this, that the Freon has to do with the heat and the cold.
Yeah. So in the summer, it sends cold air to the inside of the house, and it has a reversing valve that switches, and it sends cold air to the outside
There you
in
go.
the winter and hot air to
But the
inside.
Freon, so when they said you don't have Freon, I said, well, don't worry about that. We'll get it. And
Yeah.
They said, no, that's the problem.
Wow.
So they, within 24 hours, found the leak. With the good news, it was outside on a copper pipe, fixed it, done, gone, heat, normal.
Invoice back down.
And took the words out of my mouth. The next bill was 200.
Normal again. Yeah.
Yeah, and which you can deal with that versus versus what we got hit with, because
Yeah.
we would have got hit again.
Yeah.
But they were great. They were, as a matter of fact, when they asked me to be on the podcast, I said, absolutely. I'd be happy to come and visit.
That's great. Yeah. It's been a real honor having you, Bill. We really appreciate your time. And we congratulate all your achievements and all your efforts, especially with everything you're doing in the community. Like you said, that's huge.
Something that's coming up, and the Rangers have a gala every year.
Okay.
It is open to the public, and it's a lot less than a lot of the galas. Let me put it that way. So I know what they can run, 300, 350 a person. So out of my league. But the gala that we're going to be doing is in end of September, and it's going to be in Bernie. There's a hotel called the Bevy Hotel. So we'll be advertising it, and also, and who we have playing is Michael Martin Murphy. Remember Wildfire?
Yeah.
Michael's somebody that I've known from radio days for a long time, so he's going to come in and play. It's going to be really good, but the whole object, again, it's a 501c3, so it's you can write it off on your taxes.
Yep.
And then the other thing, but the auction items that the Texas Rangers come up with are unbelievable. If you're into, everything from trips to historic firearms.
Yeah.
And
make my mouth water here.
yeah, and then the same thing being involved with a lot of with the Alamo, the Rangers were involved back then too.
Yeah.
So we'll save that for the next time.
Yeah, that'll be part 2.
Okay, good.
Yeah, excellent. All right, you got anything else?
No,
Or
that's it.
all right, well, that does it, guys, for another episode, or I should say our first ever episode of the Alamo City Innovators Podcast. We will catch you here next time.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Alamo City Innovators Podcast, sponsored by Airtegrity Comfort Solutions. We hope you enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable insights shared today. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to us. And if you have a moment, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a comment or review, sharing your thoughts and suggestions. Your feedback helps us bring you more of the content you love. Until next time, keep innovating and exploring new horizons with us on the Alamo City Innovators Podcast. Thank you for listening.